The ProCalV5 import-export utility and mobile workstation are add-ons which must be purchased separately from the main software package. It brings the additional functionality of allowing the user to utilize mobile workstations with their current ProCalV5 installation. With this utility, you can move data between your production or main database and a mobile or off-site database. This is facilitated by exporting selected subsets of data from the production database to the mobile database, performing your work in the field, and then importing that work back into the production database. To begin exporting items, you will open the Tools menu and choose Export Selected Items. This will open the ProCalV5 export screen. The Export Database field shows the currently selected export location. The path displays the destination of the data to be exported so that it may be easily retrieved. This location can be changed by selecting the Find button. This will open a screen where you can specify a different export database location. It is important to note that exporting data does not delete it from your production database. It copies it to a separate file. Let's take a look at the Options tab. This tab allows you to select from a variety of options used for exporting the current company data. Selecting the Clear Export Database before exporting data checkbox will instruct the software to erase any data currently residing in the export database folder prior to beginning the export. This option is recommended if you are only exporting a single company's data. If you are exporting data from multiple companies, leave this box blank and export them individually. As each company is exported, it will be added to the mobile database. Selecting Export Usage Details instructs the software to export the usage count data associated with all exported items. Selecting Do Not Show Previously Exported Items will instruct the software to ignore items that have been exported but have not yet been imported back into the production database. If you wish to include previously exported items that meet your selection criteria, then leave this box blank. In the number of most recent calibration records to include with exported item field, you may enter any numeric value up to 3 digits in length. The number you enter will instruct the system to export that many of the most recent instrument, loop, system, or test instrument calibrations along with all of the other information for those records. It is often helpful to export at least the last calibration record for each of the exported items so that they are available for referencing while the user is working on the mobile workstation. Selecting Export All Equipment will allow all equipment records from the company's database to be exported. Do not export change control records instructs the software to not export any record that is in active change control. If this box is left blank, then any item with an active change control that also fits the parameters of the export will export with both the production and change control copies of the record that you will be able to toggle between just as you would on your main database. The Select section is where you can choose how you'd like to select the items to be exported. Selecting By Open Work Orders allows you to export records based upon their assignment to open work orders. Selecting By Work Due allows you to export all types of records based solely upon the date that their work was due. Selecting From Item Lists allows you to export instruments, loops, or systems based upon their next calibration due date. Selecting By User Queries allows you to export instruments, loops, and systems based upon advanced queries already established in the database or created on the fly within the utility. Selecting By Responsibility allows you to export all types of records based upon the master records assignment to departments and their assigned technicians. Let's discuss the Duplicate Record Options section next. A duplicate record occurs when there is already a copy of the record being exported in the export or target database. Duplicate records will only occur when you have not chosen to clear the export database before exporting. Therefore, if the Clear Export Database before exporting checkbox is marked, these options will be grayed out. Selecting Warn on Duplicates will instruct the software to generate a warning message during the export if a copy of that record already exists in the target database. When the message appears on the screen, you may select to replace the duplicate item with the item currently being exported from the production database, or you can ignore it and leave the current copy already on the mobile database. Selecting Replace All Duplicates will instruct the software to automatically replace all duplicate records on the target database with those currently being exported from the production database. The software will generate no warnings. Selecting Ignore all duplicates will instruct the software to ignore any duplicate records encountered during the export, leaving all records currently in the mobile database intact and not replacing them with the records exported from the production database. Once again, the software will generate no warnings. The Test Instruments section contains 4 choices for exporting data. Selecting No Test Instruments will instruct the software not to export any test instruments unless they are assigned to a work order and that work order is selected. Selecting All Test Instruments will create a table with all test instruments that have an active status for the current company. Selecting By Query adds an additional field where you can select existing queries from the drop-down list already set up for test instruments, or a new one can be created by selecting New. Selecting By Responsibility will display a list of test instruments with an active status to be displayed in the table depending on the filtering options selected. This option also adds a column on the left side of the table where you can select or deselect individual test instruments. In addition, there are 3 more filtering options. These different options can be used in conjunction with each other or independently. Let's review them now. Select Status. This field will allow the user to filter by statuses and will display all available statuses, including a field titled blank if the status field on the record is blank. Select Department. This field will allow the user to filter by department or by selecting the Allow Blank Department box to allow the table to be populated by test instruments with a blank department field. Just highlight the departments you wish to filter by and select the appropriate arrow to move them. Select Responsible Technician. This field allows the user to filter by responsible technician or by checking the Allow Blank Responsible Technician to allow the table to be populated with test instruments that have a blank field for responsible technician. Just highlight the technician you wish to filter by and select the appropriate arrow to move them. The Sort Descending and Sort Ascending button will change how the test instruments are sorted. Selecting the Service Companies button will activate a new screen where you can select service companies. To move companies from the Available Service Companies box to the Service Companies Selected box, highlight them and use the center arrow keys to move them either individually or as a group to their appropriate location. Let's look at the Users tab next. The Users tab allows you to choose which users you'd like to have access to the mobile workstation. To select a user, highlight the name and then select an arrow button. The checkbox for Only Export Required User Groups for Selected Users is an additional filter to help speed up export if there are a lot of user groups in the system. The third tab on the export screen changes as the user selects one of the 4 export choices in the Select Options section. When the Open Work Orders button is selected, the tab's title changes to reflect that. This tab allows you to choose the work orders you'd like to export. You can expand the tree to view all items and tasks assigned to the work order. Clicking the arrow buttons will move a selected work order to the Work Orders Chosen to be Exported box. To select all work orders at once, click the double arrow button. You can also use the arrows to move your selections back. If you select By Work Due, the tab allows you to select from items with work due on or before a specified date. Work due may be calibrations, planned maintenance, or requested maintenance for an instrument, loop, system, test instrument, equipment, as well as locations, buildings, and general service types. Type a date into the field and click the Refresh List button to view all items with work due by the date specified. In addition, you may click the plus sign next to any work item to view more of its details. When From Item List is chosen, the tab allows you to pick from a list of items due for calibration on or before a specified date, or you can leave the date field blank and select from all items regardless of their calibration due date. Enter the desired date or clear the date field and click the Refresh List button to update the list of items available for the section. In addition, there are 3 sections, 1 for instruments, 1 for loops, and 1 for systems. You may select 1 or more items to be moved from the boxes above to the boxes below using the arrow buttons. If you select By User Queries, the tab is now separated into 3 sections: Instrument Selection by Query, Loop Selection by Query, and System Selection by Query. In each section, you can choose from an existing advanced query to export by or create a new one to use in the moment. If an existing query is chosen from a drop-down list, then a preview button will appear allowing you to view items that meet the selected query's criteria. Once the list is displayed, you may select the Drop List button and the Advanced Queries criteria will once again be shown on the screen. If you select By Responsibility, the tab now allows you to export records based upon a master records assignment to departments and/or assigned technicians. When using this export method, you must first choose the items to export based upon their department assignment. The Available Departments box contains a list of all department records entered into the database for the current company. You may select one or more departments and use the center arrow buttons to move them to the Selected Departments box. After performing this action, click the Generate List button to view all of the items that are currently assigned to the department section. After all of your export criteria has been set, you will select Initiate Export. The export process will begin, and once it has completed, you will receive a confirmation message indicating that your mobile database has been saved to your selected location and that a log file of the event has been created. Once your data has been exported, you will move your database file to your mobile data folder, and then you can log into the mobile workstation to perform your work. Regardless of the level of access that you have in your main ProCalV5 install, on the mobile workstation, you will have limited rights. The following is a summary of the activities that may or may not be performed on a mobile workstation. You can modify records, but you are not able to delete any of those records. Also, if change control is active, you will not be able to initiate a change control on exported test instruments. Only new test instrument creations will be allowed if this option is on. You can add and modify all types of list records except for modification reasons, approval policies, and responsible technicians. However, you will not be able to delete any of these records. You can run all of the reports and reset the report directory, but you will not be able to access the report maintenance screen. You will not be able to add, modify, or delete work order or plan maintenance records. You do not have access to the system options, user administration, or user group screens. Employee record screens access will be limited to system administrators and solely for the purpose of re-enabling users and resetting passwords for temporary use on the mobile workstation. You will not have access to user-defined variables, user-defined labels, user-defined lists, or the required field screen. Once the user has completed their work on the mobile workstation, it may be imported back into the production database. From the Tools menu, select Import. Your import options are Import into the original company. This will allow your data to be imported back into the company that the data was originally exported from. Import into a different company. This will allow your data to be imported into a company on your database other than the one it was originally exported from. And import as a new company, which allows the user to create a new company and then import their data into that new company. Let's import into the original company. Once the import process is complete, you can navigate to the calibration records that have been imported and begin the finalization process. And that's all there is to it. Now you can export data from a production database into a mobile database, perform work in that mobile database, and then import that data back into your production database in ProCalV5.